Then, almost a decade after that fateful rainy night, David crossed a milestone that even he had not imagined possible so soon. PayLink's valuation soared above $1 billion after a successful round of funding and expansion into 5 African countries. On paper, David Adewale became a billionaire, one of the rare self-made billionaires in Nigeria's tech scene. The media declared him a finance wunderkind, and his story became an inspiration, proving that resilience and innovation could thrive even from the humblest beginnings. David took it in stride. Wealth was never his ultimate goal, but he couldn't deny the satisfaction of this achievement. He thought of his parents, his late father who never got to see this success, and his aging mother whom he had moved to a comfortable home away from the slums. He thought of Sam, now the COO of PayLink, who had stuck with him through every storm. And yes, in the quiet of his heart, David thought of Jessica too. He wondered if she had heard of his success, if somewhere she remembered the man she left behind. He wasn't sure if it mattered to him anymore. The boy who had once been broken was now a man fully healed, standing tall on his own. His life was full, with purpose, with supportive friends and colleagues, and perhaps soon, he hoped, with love again. David had cautiously begun dating someone kind and genuine, though he kept his personal life very private. Every so often, David would catch himself in a reflective mood, marveling at the journey. One evening, working late as usual, he stood by the window of his high-rise office. The lights of Lagos shimmered below like a galaxy of their own. He recalled a saying his mother used to murmur during tough times, "No condition is permanent." Back then, he'd barely understood it, but now it was crystal clear. The city that had witnessed his despair had also watched him rise. Fate, or perhaps sheer determination, had a remarkable way of turning tables. David sipped from a mug of strong Nigerian coffee, gazing out. He had no idea that fate was about to twist again in a way he never saw coming. It happened on a Monday morning, at the weekly executive meeting of PayLink Inc. David arrived early at the office as usual, greeting the front desk staff with a warm smile and a polite, "Good morning," as he strode in. The lobby of the PayLink building was a far cry from the dilapidated apartment blocks he grew up around. Marble floors, sleek elevators, the air scented with fresh flowers. As he entered the elevator, he nodded at a couple of junior employees who seemed starstruck to be in the lift with the CEO. He often forgot how people now perceived him, a young billionaire, a success story, because inside he still felt like the same man who loved simple things like roadside suya and a walk on Bar Beach. The doors slid open on the 10th floor where the executive conference room was located. David stepped out, prepared for another busy day of charts and strategy sessions. For a moment, David wondered if he was dreaming. The world narrowed to the two of them, everything else in soft focus. He hadn't seen her in years. Memories came flooding back, rain falling, her back turned to him, a Mercedes driving away. He felt a jolt inside his chest, not of pain exactly, but of something profound and complex, like seeing a ghost from a past life. He stood slowly, maintaining his composure even as his mind swirled. "Hello, Jessica," he said, voice measured and calm, betraying none of the adrenaline that suddenly surged through him. Jessica swallowed hard, visibly gathering herself. "David, Hi," she managed, her voice small. There was an awkward pause. She seemed uncertain whether to smile or frown, so her face ended up in a conflicted half-smile. "It's been a long time," David continued, adjusting the cuff of his tailored suit jacket to give his hands something to do. He noticed her eyes flicker over him, taking in the confident posture, the expensive suit, the ID badge that marked him as CEO. She nodded. Yes, I didn't expect to see you here." A nervous laugh escaped her lips, and she immediately looked down, as if ashamed. David realized in that instant that she truly hadn't known. PayLink had grown to be a household name in Nigeria, but perhaps Jessica hadn't followed business news, or maybe she simply never connected him to it. After all, he'd kept a low profile personally. "I work here," David said neutrally, a gentle smile tugging at his mouth as he decided to put her at ease. In fact, I suppose I should say you didn't expect to see your boss? He gestured to the badge on her blouse with her name and the Paylink logo. Jessica's cheeks turned crimson. Oh my God, David, she started, clearly mortified. She probably was realizing that the CEO whose company she just joined was the man she once left behind. He was scanning through emails on his tablet while walking when he nearly collided with someone hurrying around a corner. Oh, I'm so sorry, the woman exclaimed, papers flying from the folder in her hands. It's all right, no harm done, David said automatically, bending down to help gather the strewn documents. As he handed the papers back and looked up, he suddenly froze. There, standing before him, was Jessica. Her hair was shorter now, and she wore simple business attire, a navy blouse and gray skirt, slightly damp with perspiration from rushing around. But her face, those familiar brown eyes, were unmistakable. Jessica's initial look of embarrassment at bumping into someone transformed into shock as she truly saw who she had run into. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. A flush crept up her neck, and she took a step back, clearly overwhelmed. Before she could get another word out, one of David's executive assistants peeked out from the conference room down the hall. Sir, the meeting is about to start, the young man called politely. David raised a hand to acknowledge him. I'll be right there, he replied, without breaking eye contact with Jessica. Her eyes glistened slightly, and she looked as if she might burst into tears from embarrassment and 1,000 other emotions. In that brief window, David made a decision. Jessica, he said softly, I'd like to talk. Will you meet me after work today? Say around 6 p.m. in my office? She stared at him, surprised by the invitation. Perhaps she expected he would fire her on the spot or humiliate her. But David's tone was sincere and gentle. Jessica blinked rapidly and nodded. Of course. I'll be there, she answered quietly. David offered a reassuring smile, then turned and walked to his meeting, heart still thudding. As he took his seat at the head of the conference table, the irony of the situation wasn't lost on him. The woman who had once doubted his future now sat 3 floors below, an employee in the empire he built. Life, with its strange sense of humor, had truly brought him full circle. That day felt like an eternity. David went through the motions during meetings, reviewed quarterly reports, and discussed strategy. But part of his mind remained fixed on the upcoming conversation with Jessica. What would he say? How would he even begin? He felt oddly calm. Years ago, the mere thought of her would have tied his stomach in knots, but now there was a sense of closure forming, even before they spoke. Still, emotions were bubbling beneath the surface. Curiosity, a touch of vindication perhaps, but also genuine compassion. He needed to know what had happened in her life, even as he prepared to share what had happened in his. Finally, evening arrived. The sun cast an amber glow through the panoramic window of David's top-floor office as he stood watching the traffic crawl below. There was a timid knock at the door. Come in, he said, turning around. Jessica stepped inside, looking both nervous and determined. David's office was spacious and elegantly furnished, a testament to his success, and Jessica's eyes quickly surveyed the room before settling on him. She offered a tentative smile. You asked to see me, sir? She said formally, perhaps unsure which role to take, former lover or dutiful employee. Drop the sir, please, David replied kindly. Have a seat, Jessica. She sat on the edge of a leather chair across from his desk. David remained standing for a moment, then decided to sit too, trying to ease the palpable tension. For a few seconds, neither spoke. Up close, David could see that time had left its mark on her. She was still beautiful, but there was a fragility to her that he didn't recall, a weariness around her eyes. Life hadn't exactly been kind to her, that much was evident. He broke the silence gently. I have to admit, I was surprised to discover you are working here now. Jessica flushed again and nodded. I was surprised to find out who I was working for, she responded, her voice barely above a whisper. She took a deep breath and then looked directly at him, as if mustering courage. David, I owe you an apology. More than an apology. I owe you an explanation. I know I have no right to ask, but will you hear me out? Her words rushed out, laden with regret. David's chest tightened. He hadn't expected her to dive in so directly. He simply replied, "Go ahead, I'm listening." And so Jessica began to unravel the years that had passed. She explained how, after leaving him, she did get involved with the wealthy man. His name was Philip, a businessman from an elite family. In the beginning, life with Philip was luxurious. Trips abroad, fancy dinners on Victoria Island, a new apartment in an upscale Ikoyi complex. She acknowledged that she was blinded by comfort and what she thought was security. But that life came at a cost. Philip, it turned out, was controlling and often cruel. He belittled her, treated her like an accessory rather than a partner. Jessica's voice trembled as she confessed how she realized, too late, that she traded away love for comfort and got neither in the end. After 2 years, Philip moved on to someone else and left her. She didn't marry him as she once hoped. Instead, she found herself adrift. Jessica had studied business administration, but she'd been out of the workforce, living in Philip's shadow. When he left, she had to start over from scratch, emotionally and financially. David listened quietly, his face empathetic. As she spoke, he saw tears well in her eyes when she described the humiliation and regret that haunted her. "I was too ashamed to reach out to you," she admitted, voice cracking. "I heard bits and pieces about what you were doing. I knew you were doing well, but I never imagined this." She gestured faintly at the grand office. "When I applied here, I honestly didn't connect the dots that it was you. I just needed a job, any job, to get back on my feet. I was lucky to be hired as an admin officer." By now, tears were flowing freely down Jessica's cheeks. "I'm so sorry, David," she said, wiping her face. "Sorry for everything. I hurt you, and it's the biggest regret of my life. You deserved so much better than what I did to you." A heavy silence filled the office as her words hung in the air. David realized he'd been holding his breath at some point. Seeing her like this, vulnerable, remorseful, stirred a mix of feelings. This was the same woman who had once broken him, now seemingly broken herself. He felt no triumph in that, only a deep sense of poignancy. After a long pause, he spoke, his voice gentle. "Thank you for telling me all this. I won't pretend it wasn't extremely painful what you did. It was, but that pain also pushed me to find myself." He offered a small, earnest smile. "Jessica, I forgave you a long time ago." She looked up, eyes shiny with tears and surprise. David continued, choosing his words with care. "Back then, I thought my world ended the night you left. But life had other plans. In a way, you leaving forced me to grow in ways I might never have. It motivated me, first out of heartbreak, then eventually out of a genuine passion to build something of value." He gestured toward the window, where the lights of the city were beginning to twinkle in the early dusk. "I'm not that lost young man anymore. I found my worth. And I truly hope you've found or will find yours, not in someone else, but in yourself." Jessica bit her lip, trying and failing to hold back a sob. David, moved by compassion, reached across the desk and handed her a box of tissues. She took one, whispering, "Thank you," and dabbed at her face. "You've changed so much," she said softly. "You're incredible. And I don't mean just the success. I mean you. How you carry yourself with kindness. I can see it." David felt a warmth in his chest at those words. If this meeting had happened 5 years ago, he might have reveled in showing off his success to prove a point. But today, he only felt a serene sense of closure and a genuine wish for her to be okay. They talked a while longer, catching up in a way that felt surreal given their history. Jessica mentioned she was taking evening classes to further her qualifications and that she was determined to stand on her own feet now. David encouraged her, even offering to connect her with a mentor in the company's finance department after seeing her aptitude in business admin. She was taken aback by his willingness to help, which only made her more remorseful for the past. "You really forgive me?" she asked again quietly, as if needing confirmation for her own peace. David nodded and replied, "Completely. We were young and people make choices. Life happens. I truly wish the best for you, Jessica. We all deserve happiness." By the time Jessica left his office, the tension had lifted. She looked lighter, as if unburdened by confessing and receiving his forgiveness. David watched her go, quietly amazed at how life can twist and turn. Who could have imagined this moment all those years ago? As her figure disappeared beyond the doorway, David leaned back in his chair and let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. He felt free. It was as if any remaining shards of that old heartbreak had finally been plucked out of his heart. He swiveled his chair to gaze out at the Lagos skyline, dusk giving way to the glittering night. In the reflection of the glass, he saw himself, and, faintly overlaying that, he remembered the image of the heartbroken boy he once was. They were two different people now. His phone buzzed gently on the table. A message from Sam. "Drinks to celebrate the new deal tonight?" David smiled and replied, "Absolutely, and I have a story to tell you." Later that night, David found himself laughing with Sam at a trendy rooftop lounge in Lagos. The air was warm and filled with the sounds of Afrobeat music and city traffic below. After telling Sam about the incredible coincidence of Jessica working at Paylink and their conversation, Sam was wide-eyed. "Life no dey disappoint in drama, oh!" Sam exclaimed in Nigerian pidgin English, clinking his glass of beer against David's. "I mean, you can't make this stuff up. She left you for a rich man, and now you're the rich man signing her paychecks." David chuckled and shook his head. "It's wild, isn't it?" he replied, gazing out over the city. He felt no gloating satisfaction, just a profound sense of how unpredictable life can be. Sam grew a bit more serious as he looked at his friend. "I remember that night, Dave. I remember you thinking everything was over." David nodded slowly, the memories of rain and heartbreak still a distant echo. "Yeah, I really did." Sam put a hand on David's shoulder, his voice gentle and filled with admiration. "Look at you now. I'm proud of you, man. Not because you're wealthy, but because you didn't let that pain turn you bitter. You turned it into something good." David felt a lump in his throat at that, and he placed his hand over Sam's in gratitude. "I had help," he said meaningfully. Both of them knew the truth in that. Friendship had been one of David's lifelines. As the night breeze picked up, David closed his eyes for a moment, just feeling the world around him. The laughter from other tables, the distant honking of cars on Ozumbambadiwe Avenue, the steady whoosh of the ocean in the distance. Lagos was alive and so was he. In that still moment, a powerful realization washed over him. Every setback, every heartbreak, every twist of fate had been preparing him for something greater. If Jessica hadn't left, would he have pushed himself to these heights? Perhaps not. It didn't excuse the hurt, but it illuminated a truth. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead us directly to the best things that ever happened to us. He opened his eyes and took a slow sip of his drink. "You know, Sam," David began thoughtfully, "your words kept me going. No condition is permanent. I really understand that now." Sam grinned. "I just said what our mothers always told us," he replied. David continued, his tone turning reflective. "It's more than that. It means you should never count yourself out. Life can change in an instant. The pain of today might be the very thing that fuels your strength for tomorrow." He looked at his friend and around at the city skyline shimmering with possibilities. "I think the lesson in all of this is that our value isn't determined by who stays or leaves, or by immediate success or failure. It's determined by us, how we respond, how we grow." He paused, then added with a smile, And that success is the best revenge, not against a person, but against the odds that were stacked against you. Sam raised his glass again. Here, to resilience and to life's crazy twists. David clinked glasses with him, both of them smiling broadly. He felt a surge of emotion, gratitude, happiness, and peace all mingled together. Resilience, self-worth, and the unexpected twists of fate. These were the themes life had taught him over and over. David had learned that a broken heart didn't have to break him. Instead, it became the foundation upon which he rebuilt himself stronger than before. As the two friends fell into easy conversation about lighter topics, David's gaze drifted one last time toward his office building in the distance, where a light in one window indicated someone working late. Perhaps Jessica, catching up on tasks, forging her own new path. He silently wished her well. Their story had taken a turn neither of them expected, and it left him with a gentle hope that she too would find her redemption and happiness. When David finally returned home late that night, he found himself standing on the balcony of his penthouse apartment, overlooking the city that never truly sleeps. The enormity of the journey hit him fully. In Lagos, this city of dreams and hustle, he had gone from a heartbroken young man with nothing to a successful, fulfilled man who understood his own worth. Fate had been unpredictable, but through it all he learned one unshakable truth. Never underestimate the power of resilience. With a contented sigh, David whispered into the night as if speaking to the city itself, "No condition is permanent. Today's despair can indeed become tomorrow's triumph." And with that final thought, he turned away from the glittering lights and went inside, ready to embrace a future forged from the lessons of his past. Lesson: never let heartbreak or rejection define your future. The pain of today can be the fuel that drives you to build a greater tomorrow. No condition is permanent. Your story can change. Thank you for watching Stories by Ricardo. Remember this: no condition is permanent. The pain of today can become the triumph of tomorrow. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unforgettable stories.